motion. I would like to call the meeting,
We just need to call the meeting to order.
to call the meeting to order.
Don't sound so timid about it.
I'm being polite about it.
It's your sweetheart.
For roll call purposes, I'll just note that Tessa, Gwen, and Karen are here.
Very good.
We can be a little bit. Okay, so we've established a quorum. We can move on to the agenda. When you're ready.
Okay, Tracy, would you like to, just want the financial statements, please?
I would love to. So I've been working on, speaking of which, getting all of the accounts set up. When I have some things for you to sign.
Okay.
So I've got Bob's signatures, I need Gwen's signatures, and I need one signature from Terry Cuddy, so I'll track him down. But then once I have that, I will write out some checks to transfer funds according to the decisions we made at the board meeting, which is to establish the CD, open that pilot checking account, the dedicated pilot account with the minimum, I think it's $500, and then transfer some money from savings into checking. So you can see here, our checking account is quite low now that we've dispersed those JBJ pilot payments. But even with the decisions we made at the last meeting, there would still be some money left in savings. So we talked about putting 75,000 in a CD, 500 for the account, and then, or for the pilot account, and then transferring about 35, I think it was 35,000 to the checking account for operating and cash flow. The other thing that isn't accounted for here is I haven't cut the check for the loan to the city yet. So I'm gonna transfer that as well to the checking account before I can cut that check. So I mean, the savings account will be not depleted, but it will certainly be, what is that? So 75 gets us down to 100,000, 35 gets us down to 65.
And then
And then 500 gets us down, and then the 20 or the 23 plus the 11 and interest. So we're talking, it'll be about 40 or $50,000, the savings account when all is said and done.
That'll be what, how much will be left in the savings?
About 50,000, somewhere in the 50 to 60,000.
That in liquid savings.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, so we would still have over 100,000 in actual savings.
Reserves.
though.
Right.
Yeah, and so there'll be the 75,000 in the CD.
Got it, yes.
So a big portion of what's coming out of there is gonna go into the CD to just gain better interest.
Right,
So just a heads up that by the time we get our July statements, this is gonna look a little different. But that said, we don't have as much cash. Ada doesn't have quite as much cash as perhaps we were thinking we did, because those pilot payments were still sitting in that account, so I just wanted to call your attention to that. And then I need to bill for these outs, I still haven't billed for these pilots that were underbilled last year. For Mac Studios. When those pilots come in. I'm thinking that what we'll have to do is issue a refund out of those pilot proceeds, because the municipalities were paid additional on the Mac Studios pilot, but underpaid on these other ones. So I think what would have to happen is once the revenue comes in from these groups, we would back out the 10,881, return that to Mac Studios, and then disperse the rest to the taxing municipalities and then create a new spreadsheet to just tell them this is what belongs for each property.
So. We'll wait until September before those balances. Is that,
I'm gonna try to build these now in July. I'm gonna do this now because it's still correcting for last year.
And they're all aware.
Not yet,
Okay.
not unless they're watching these meetings.
Right. Well, I doubt they are.
Okay,
Yeah,
so.
so the other option is to wait and do this in September with the other billing.
Mhm.
I guess I mean, I would prefer to, I mean, I hear what you're saying, I think we should probably do it sooner than later, one. I would want to know if I was then like, oh, my that's gonna be an additional 25,000, that they're aware, but. So. I guess I don't understand why we would have to do it in pieces, though, I don't.
Well, it's just each one of them will be billed, and
Uh-huh.
then I can't issue the refund to Peter or to Mac Studios without having the revenue from the other ones. Well, unless, I mean, we could issue the refund and just keep the money, but I'd rather it be clean, for like, it's like pilot
I see,
income,
okay.
you know.
I see, okay,
Luckily, there's more overages than underages, so,
Mhm.
or underages than overages,
more.
more. Yeah, anyways, more money's gonna come in than we need to
Disperse.
refund.
Because
to-
people were not billed.
Yes, they were billed incorrectly.
Got it.
Yes.
All right, so they owe money.
Yes,
Okay, got
so
it.
all of in the under
Except for
accounts with
Mac.
AR pilots.
Right,
The positive numbers are owed.
yes.
One of those JBJ, that's just a late fee.
Mm-hmm.
The other two, Nucor and Prison City, were under
Mm-hmm.
billed.
Got
And then Mac Studios was overbilled.
Got it.
So we'll use the revenues from, or what's coming in. It'll just be like a
Yeah.
spreadsheet
Mhm.
rearrangement
Got
of where things are.
Got it.
And so I'll make sure to get that new list of what belongs to which pilot
Mm-hmm.
to the municipalities as
Mhm.
well, because they would have been basing theirs on what we sent them.
Mhm.
So that's the most confusing piece.
Do we need to contact, like, would we contact? That, how does that look?
Contact the municipalities
No,
or
the vendor, the businesses.
I'll contact them before I send the bills out. So the two that are.
Cause I wonder if we should do like a cover letter or something.
Oh, yeah, for
Mhm.
sure. There would definitely at least be a cover letter and
Right.
a phone call in
Okay.
advance. So I can make those phone calls, or if someone else wants to make them.
What
that's
has been practice?
This has not happened.
Oh, so what's your gut saying we should do? Who should make the phone call?
I do think it's worthwhile to make a phone call so they don't just get a bill in the mail and be
Right.
like, what the.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of who the board is comfortable, or who this group is comfortable having that call come from.
Mhm.
I mean, I think Audrey is still doing Prison City's bookkeeping, and she lives down the street from me, and I see her all the time.
So you're not worried about these conversations?
I
though?
mean, I'm like, especially Nucor, I'm a little bit worried about just because of the size of that payment.
Mhm.
But it's not a conversation you can't, like, I'm not afraid of the conversation.
Mhm.
They're probably not gonna be thrilled about it, but it is what it is.
And because this happened because of we weren't doing what we were supposed to do.
It's not, it's a calculation error that
Okay.
they're catching up with now.
Got it. So sit with this. I don't have a problem making the initial calls to give them a heads up that the invoices are going. And then just saying to them, if you just like script me, right? Because I want to make sure I communicate it effectively. We could hook up somewhere and I could just make the phone calls and you can kick me under the table. But I do think that there should be some communication
Mhm.
before the invoice is set, send it and then tell them, of course, we're open to clarifying, following up with them.
Yeah.
And let's just do it.
So.
Does that feel better? Like I should be the person?
I'm fine either way,
Okay.
truly. I don't mind making the phone calls.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah,
That was
I-
not me saying, like, this was me, more so me gauging where my line is as interim executive director,
Got it.
more so than me saying I'm uncomfortable doing.
All right, great. With that clarity, then I'm not uncomfortable with you doing it, right? I think that you probably have the best handle on the information and the conversation, so if we can make it seamless and smooth. I just want to make sure that we're communicating what happened and leaving room for them to get feedback, ask any questions, and if anything else bubbles up, of course. We can then, deal with that from the board. But my thing is that I just always want you to be comfortable.
Yes.
Doing.
I'm
what-
perfectly comfortable
Okay.
doing it.
And I think you have the best handle on what caused
Yeah.
the challenge, so.
But, just as a question, so, but, I mean, Newcore must be aware that they have this outstanding pilot amount, correct? Or are they on one of the staggered lists?
So theirs is not necessarily a set payment anymore, it used to be.
Okay, that's what I'm
So-
familiar with.
Yeah, so it was up until, I think, last year even, or 2
Okay.
years ago, this was like the first or second year that they went into their extended pilot, which is not a set payment. Like it was for the 20 years before.
Right, okay, so what criteria goes into calculating the amount, just in relative terms, because it's on the extended pilot, so.
Yes.
Yeah, so is it based on their revenue, is it based on the taxing authorities
Yeah, so-
percentages?
We aligned it more with the normal pilot schedules where it's based on an assessment and then a percentage.
Okay,
So we. For the first couple of years, because they were planning to work on this with the city on their assessment. We set an assessment for the first few years, and then it's gonna kick into the actual assessment, wherever that lands, it'll kick into the actual assessment, I think it was after 3 years. And then there's a percentage, so it's based on the actual tax rates, the assessment, and then a percentage.
okay.
So it's a little bit, it's closer to what our normal schedules would be, as opposed to a set schedule.
All right, okay, so that's why they would need to be billed and they would
Yes,
not be
they would not
aware
necessarily
of
know.
that value. So they didn't get a bill at all last year.
They did get a bill, it was just less than
What
it
it
should
was
have been.
was it incorrect?
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So something went haywire in that calculation when they did when
Whoever
whoever
did it.
did the calculation. There was a number that was off, and
And is that true for Prison City as well?
yes,
So, are they all future pilots? It's been Ada's, criteria that they're going to try to keep them more current rather than set.
yeah, so what I started
From what you recall.
finding is that the set pilots. Were coming to the end and having a huge jump because the set payments didn't keep up with actual. Like tax
Reality.
rate increases and assessment increases and all that stuff.
Mhm.
So they were getting to the end of their pilots and they were seeing really big increases and they were coming back and asking for help. And so we started getting away from that because using the percentages and the assessments means we're actually building towards their actual tax liability. So at the end, they're seeing that 10% jump instead of whatever happens to the set assessments.
Understood. Okay,
So I started pushing that direction because I wanted to get us out of the cycle of people having to come back at the end of the pilot because. Just because they were in a
Sticker
set
shock.
schedule
Yeah.
and they were all of a sudden gonna see a 60% jump in their
Right.
taxes.
right.
That would
Or,
have want that.
Yeah,
No one would be happy
No,
with that.
no, right.
All right, so we're,
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the historical, how
Right.
did we get to this point?
I think the most important thing to me is that we just communicate effectively what happened and leave room open for conversation. If you're comfortable making the phone calls, I'm perfectly comfortable with it. I think you have the best handle technically on what went on to put us in this situation with them. And then, just collect any feedback and you figure it out from there.
Yes, and I think, and my concern was, I didn't know what kind of, like, if they were gonna be upset and like what the board needed, like if, but if you I mean, obviously, yes, you're the best one to answer these questions and do that. I just didn't know if you were anticipating anyone being upset to the point of. Like there would be follow-up to it.
I really don't know.
I mean, they may ask to do it like in smaller amount,
Mhm.
like, like
Mhm.
divide into threes
Mhm.
or something. So the monies that's collected on those pilots, the outstanding values, when are they due to be dispersed to the taxing authorities?
I would need to, when they come in, I would need to disperse them within 30 days.
Within 30 days, okay,
Mhm.
all right.
I guess, Tracy, the only other thing that the board might be curious about is if there is some pushback
Mhm.
and people want to negotiate the rollout of the payment. If A, is that an option? And B, just making sure that Rob educates us sort of about the boundaries of what we can or can't do. I think the goal here and one part of the communication is that we want to handle this now. And we're putting systems in place with the goal of making sure that people don't find themselves in this situation
Right.
again. So I think that you have a lot of credibility too, and that will make a difference. And
Mhm.
so I say, let's just see what happens, and I think we just need to understand if somebody came back with an alternate way to address this, that Rob just assures the board that we are with, or and or you, that we're within our regulations and public in IDA law to do what
Yeah,
we're being asked to do. That's all that matters to me.
Yeah, like you
Mhm.
said, just having that, letting
Yeah.
that, like the open door
Yeah.
piece of it, so that we can rectify it.
Communication is key.
Okay. Also on the balance sheet, nothing's changed in our fixed assets. No accounts payable right now, or on the June 30th bill. I'll take care of this once we get all this banking stuff.
Mhm.
That'll be part of the whole transfer. And then the student government is. Primarily, let's do up here, although there's still it looks like some errand things in there that. We have to figure out.
And it's due to government, the distribution of the pilot to the.
Correct.
Okay.
So obviously there's more in there now than
Right.
there should be,
Right.
so there's some stuff in there we still need to figure out.
Right.
As you might be able to tell from the documents, I did switch over to the online version.
Mhm.
We got a good deal for the first few months, but I'll keep working on finding
Mhm.
better deals. So first 3 months, we're only gonna pay 20 something dollars. Before it jumps up to the regular rate,
Mhm.
but I'll keep looking at what the options are to try to get that cost down. So nothing else terribly interesting on the balance sheet. On the profit and loss. And nothing terribly interesting here. So this is for the whole year. So not much to report here. One thing I will say is that I've been getting a lot of emails about potential projects that are coming up.
Oh,
So, in addition, so we've got Builder's Choice, which came to the last meeting. One, just so you know, they're gonna go back and do the site plan with the city
Yes.
first. And then come back to us,
Okay.
because we ran into some snags with the seeker.
Right.
City's gonna have to do seeker anyway,
Mhm.
so we'll let the city do it because they're good at it. And they do it all the time, and Builder's Choice will come back to us for the actual resolution. So I imagine that'll be a couple months from now. August or September. I got three other leads. That I'm starting to work on, one of which. I had a meeting last week, on Friday. It's a existing business looking to do a minor expansion, like a warehousing expansion, add a few jobs. And then, one is a potential residential, market rate residential project. So going to do some fact finding with them, just to figure out what is their project, what is compelling about it. and see if it might be a good fit for Ada. I forgot that we had actually done, that Ada had done Logan Lofts, which is also a market rate residential. That was one thing I was a little worried about with this project. It's fully there's no commercial component.
Mhm.
Which if we can, but we did Logan Lofts, JBJ had that was more of a mixed use situation. Bluefield Manor was fully housing, but it was senior housing, so I'm just gonna gather some information. It
Mhm.
sounds like they are looking to move really fast. They have a few meetings next week, but we'll see if they're a good fit and I'll report back.
Mhm.
And then there is another existing business that is looking to try to expand and just running into some capacity issues,
Mhm.
so. Where I've also got a meeting set up with them next week.
Mhm.
So maybe a few applications come in our way over the next few
Mhm.
months.
It's good. I
Um,
love the look on Tessa's face.
Yeah.
I love when the treasurer is happy.
So that would be great for the profit and loss.
And I think that Builder's Choice, I think that CMX is starting to build that spur.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, yeah, it looks like it's between Genesee Gardens and up towards Dunkin' Donuts.
Mhm.
And it looks like they're starting to build that spur, so that spur would have to be, so they have a place like to offload or pause their cars in order to get to Builder's Choice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, this is exciting.
yes, it is.
So yeah, so there's still work to do,
Mhm.
still getting the new banking situated, but
Mhm.
heading a good direction.
It's a lot of work, thank you.
Just to make a note, Tracy, as I'm sort of thinking about things, I think when we were in the front end of, I think we were just prior to you coming on board, Jenny did come and talk about different things and said, here's the application, you can look at it. I think we talked about this before, so if I'm redundant, excuse me. But it might not be a bad idea at some point just to walk the board through what we're asking a potential applicant to respond to, so we have like a mindset of what the application looks like, right?
Sure.
So just, you can make note of that. It's not, I
Yeah,
don't think it's like a whole board education conversation, but I think that if maybe as these are coming in, if you run us by, like, just to make sure you're familiar, so when a completed application comes through, we understand sort of the alignment between the language and the response. I don't think that would be a bad idea.
yeah, that might actually be good after hopefully Builder's Choice
Right,
wraps up,
right.
because the thing I'm getting back into, I don't know if it's been getting done recently, but the idea of like showing them scenarios of like, this is what a pilot versus a 45B looks like.
That's where
And
Mhm.
how what I'll send them
Right,
to get information so that I can run those scenarios. And I could show you kind of how that played out.
I think that would be
Builder's
great.
Choice.
I think that people know. It's like closing the knowing doing gap for
Yeah.
people. We academically understand that application is out there and people complete it, but I think that when you look at the economic development handbook, right? It kind of gives you all the scenarios. So we understand that. I think we can understand that, but actually seeing what the scenarios are, under what circumstances would someone come to Ada for various things and what that looks like, I think is a brilliant thing to do. I just want us to not just be nodding our heads. I want us to make sure that we really get it
Mhm.
so that we can ask appropriate questions.
Yeah, so maybe that would be good for
Mhm.
August or
Yeah.
September.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Great. And then, so yeah, I don't have anything else to add on the
Mhm.
financials at this point.
Thank you so much. But really, truly, thank you.
Like we really need it.
Okay, so we had discussed at the board meeting as far as the bank, which you touched base on a few things. One, as far as what we were doing with the banking and looking at it and how we were gonna break down the
Mhm.
savings. And so there were a lot of motions.
Mhm.
And the debit card, looks like that did get set up, so is that how you paid for QuickBooks?
So I don't have that set up yet. I wanted to talk about it with the group first.
Okay,
So QuickBooks, I was actually able to tie directly to the bank account, which is like an EFT. And so putting in our banking information, I did have to pay personally for the website hosting. So I'm gonna insert a reimbursement for that, directly from Ada at the next meeting, but it was about $1,500 to get the website migrated, the hosting set up, and, you know, we ended up going with a 5-year, because you're gonna get the best deal doing that. So it was a pretty big expense, but that would come out of the marketing budget,
Right.
and so I ended up having to pay for that on my credit card. So this is why maybe Ada needs
Right.
a card.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense to me. And it makes it cleaner for
Um,
everyone. So I just want to make sure I'm having clarification. Are we talking about the Ada actual website is what you had to pay for the
Yes.
hosting for? Okay.
Yeah. So Dan and I finally got, Dan Lovell was so helpful.
Right.
He worked with GoDaddy to get it migrated.
Right.
And so it's now Ada has its own designated GoDaddy account where it's
Mhm.
getting hosted and it's getting the services it needs, and so we're set up for 5 years there. I
Mhm.
think it was 5 years. And Dan made that all happen, which was amazing because I had no idea what I was doing.
Right.
So that's all transferred over. We now have access to the website. I haven't quite gotten in there and started updating things yet, but we now have access to the website.
Mhm. Very
So the only thing left is Ada's YouTube,
Mhm.
which I had a call with Extra Mile this morning. We were gonna transfer that, but Google's throwing us through some verification loops, so we actually have to wait 30 days to do that.
Mhm.
So we'll keep working on the YouTube, but everything else we have credentials for now.
And do we have any other social media at all? Ada specific, okay.
Oh, actually, I'm sorry, I forgot. I guess we do have a Facebook page now.
Mhm.
With the Take Root in Auburn, I think we created a Facebook page. No one's been managing that.
I was gonna say, do we need to have one?
I mean,
What's your opinion?
unless someone is going to manage it,
Mhm.
no.
It's, to me, it seems like it would be in our best interest just to drive everyone to our website.
Mhm.
So. Do we know who set that up? Was that something CETA set up? I'm just offering this because
Yeah.
I know they're challenged in trying to get it on their own social media.
Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot
Mhm.
about the Facebook page.
Right.
Yeah, so that CETA set that up, but I think it is its own account.
Okay.
I don't know what email address it's attached to,
Mhm.
so that's the question I need to figure out.
Yeah.
But unless like the marketing committee is gonna start taking over like content generation for that, I'm not gonna lie, it's not my
Yeah.
strong suit,
Right.
and
What, I know that this is
wouldn't
what
rely
Katie
on you
does.
to
She
do.
might have a point of view about
Yes.
this. I think the thing that we want to know is. If there's any fees attached to it, which I'm not sure sometimes because this isn't a business. And the other thing, I think, is just to have a conversation with Katie. To discern why it would add value to us to have a Facebook page and a website when Jenny's sort of observation of the website is that it's great. And that maybe we invest the time and energy into keeping that updated.
Yeah.
And investing in someone to keep that updated.
Yeah, so I think originally the Facebook page happened when we launched the brand.
Yeah,
and are
yeah,
pushing out content.
yeah.
We are not pushing out content.
Yeah, right. So. And I'm trying to think about what type of content we would push.
Yeah, I think if we were using it regularly, we could push out information about our meetings.
Got
We could post the
Right.
links to our videos, we could talk about projects, and like say like, hey, this is a project we're gonna be talking about, it's 30-word description of what it is.
Mhm.
Like, it would be a way for us to talk about what we're talking about at our meetings and being more
Conversational about.
conversational about it and keeping people more informed about it, but
Mhm.
I don't know how many people actually follow the page.
Yeah. That would be interesting to know. So I think Katie could give us a lot of insight about that. And I think that the key thing I'm having a financial reaction to this as well. But I think the key thing is, because there will be a cost, right? I think to getting someone to do it beyond you. And so I think we should talk to Katie about it, but with the understanding that either someone on the committee would have to create and post the content, or that they would bring a recommendation to the board that we invest in someone that has the skill set and economic development in their background to keep the content appropriate.
So yeah, so I'll find the Facebook, I'll at least find the credentials and, so we have access to it. Proud about that one.
Yay.
Do other IDs have Facebooks? Is that what they, because I could see it for meetings, definitely, and trying to get, because I know we post this in the paper, right? Like,
In the section of the paper that's probably.
yeah, so that's, I could see where that would be beneficial because, yeah, I just don't think, like, there's just a lot of people who just don't understand like the.
And it would be, like, I could see there being a strategy to say, hey, we're gonna do profiles of our board members. And we're gonna talk about like, okay, here's a project we did 3 years ago, here's how it's going.
From that perspective, it makes sense to me to
Yeah.
have it, but and then we have to actively
But
drive
it's-
people to look at for that.
Yeah, and it's a matter of just
Right.
generating that content
Yeah.
and then driving people there.
Yeah, that makes sense to me from this perspective, is that I don't think most people understand what an IDA does.
Mhm.
I've discovered that a lot of people that I would assume that don't. So if it's a way that we can use it to educate people and to also make visible to people, when we do this, this is us acting on that strategic priority. Now that makes sense to me, right? And so, yeah, I think we should let the marketing committee sort of ponder this.
Yeah.
Inclusive of what would they recommend is the best way to keep it populated and managed. And then if there's a cost to that, then, we would talk through that from that lens. But from that perspective, I think it could be interesting, and we just have to get active around making sure that we're driving people to the Facebook page to see that.
Well, what I recall is like when Prison City started at the old armory. And that was the whole scope.
Facebook, see if Onondaga County.
And then next thing, then it was going to be the lot across from Standard Ave.
Mhm.
And I said, nah, that's not really gonna fit. So then they went out a little bit further, and it's remarkable. It's so, I mean, sometimes it's like little baby steps or little leaps as they
Definitely not
explore.
overnight.
No, but as they explore,
Mhm.
their options, like you say, does that fit, does this fit, what's gonna be work out best, and so forth. But those flashes, that's what Ada did. And then next thing you know, it's like, oh, well, what I'm saying, it's easy to just go on to the next thing or what have you, and just have it plateau.
Yeah, there's,
So whether or not it's showcasing, or whether the businesses would rather not have their, business highlighted, you don't know.
Yeah.
But
And even like at year end, when we do all the calculations of this is how much the municipality, like, it would be really great to say like, hey, our pilot or the companies and pilots paid X number of dollars to the school district this year. That is their tax payment,
Right.
just like putting those numbers out there too.
Yeah, I think with the right strategy, it could be interesting as our way to just keep people apprised and educated about the work of the IDA.
yes, I
Yeah.
agree. I mean, I think that's what the tone of this whole thing is, right? There's so many people who just don't understand those baby steps and those little celebrations and how the city works with investors coming in here, and you don't get like those extra, like the credit for it and the positivity that goes with it, and the yeah, like the credit for all the work that goes into it. So just being able to share that easily on Facebook.
Well, I would encourage us all to visit, and maybe we should tell the board to do this too, just to visit, because when it was being populated, the last post I'm looking at was January 17th, 2023. It looks like it was doing what we're talking about having it do, and then I'm looking at a couple of other industrial development authorities that have Facebook pages as well. So I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that if we're going to have one, that it's being effectively and efficiently used and used in and on a strategic purpose.
Yeah.
So it looks like there was something intentional going on there. So yeah, why don't we pass that over to the marketing committee
Mhm.
and then ask them to explore what the cost would be to have someone be engaged to be our social media manager.
So this all started with a debit card.
Yeah. Thank you.
So yes, we
Right.
will hand that off to the marketing
Right.
committee. So
And it is an example of why
Yeah.
having something like this could be helpful. Thank you for reining us in.
So anyways, I think it would be helpful for Ada to have a debit card to pay
Mhm.
expenses for digital
Mhm,
things,
mhm,
like, well, obviously it doesn't matter for QuickBooks, but to have on file for GoDaddy.
mhm.
If you do want to do some Facebook ads at some point, just, there's a lot more digital things to buy these days, and it's gonna come up. I wouldn't see using it to just like go to the store and buy something,
Right.
but for digital purchases.
So kind of along the lines of with the authority of the Binkies, would Bob's name have to go on that? too? Like, would he have to use it?
So
Or
it
we're
would
just gonna store
either,
it like with you and then you use it online?
so I would think, so it would either be Bob or Gwen, they're the two signers on the account. It'd have to be one of them. And then we would probably just store it someplace and have it available as needed.
Meaning our names would be attached to the card, but we could authorize the executive director to use the cards
Right.
under certain parameters.
Right.
Okay.
So, but the issue being someone's personal, like, once you get into a debit card,
Mhm.
like, it's your personal
Right.
stuff that starts getting connected to it. And so that's where I think maybe we haven't had a debit card, is we
Mhm.
haven't really needed it,
Right.
and so why bother? But
And
like,
can the entity itself have its own credit card?
someone's name still has to be attached to it,
Got
is my
it.
understanding, because I think that's
Mm-hmm.
how it works with like all the anti-terrorism laws and stuff.
Right.
Is someone
A
has to be
human.
attached.
So it's not just because it's a debit card, like you would have to,
Yeah.
whether it's a credit card, debit card, you have to.
So, it's something, the other thing is to say, you know what, like, we're fine reimbursing. We're fine with someone paying for something and reimbursing them. So that's the other thing. If we want to avoid a debit card at this point. So far, the only thing we've really needed it for is GoDaddy, because their bank transfer software doesn't work very well. I tried,
Right.
it just wouldn't take it.
So Bob or one are the only ones, then. like,
Yeah.
You'd have to
Well, I have.
be comfortable with it and
Yeah,
then, or
and the
Bob. would
part
have
of with
to
the
be
debit
comfortable.
card, and I get it, right, because I have my own business and my personal name's on all my business stuff too. I'd be a little uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
I think we should explore what the best option would be.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's things to think about, right, because we trust you. Right, but would we trust them,
Right.
we have to really think about that from sort of a policy perspective.
Yeah, and one policy thing to do is to say, Gwen, if it's your name on the card, you keep the card.
Mhm,
So no one can use it unless
mhm.
you
Like,
distinctly
you would log in and do it, but
do something.
But then what about like in the background, like, I would think, okay, now here's another. Flag on my
Mhm.
credit report.
Well, that's what it
something like
is.
that, Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
thing.
the life of an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
We're either eating ramen noodles or prime rib. Every time I see one of those things, I'm like, and what's the number today? Well, let me ask you this. Because we are part of city government, could the city be the one that handles those digital payments for us? Or does it have to be?
Like they would bill
Well,
us.
so like what would happen, like CETA would pay for the hosting and you would reimburse, CETA would bill you and you would reimburse CETA.
Got it.
So all the GoDaddy
bill
stuff
Ada.
used to go, yes, sorry.
Right, mhm.
All of the GoDaddy stuff used to go through CETA's debit card.
Right.
Or credit card. And CETA would bill Ada for those charges.
Okay.
So it'd just be a matter of setting up a relationship that
Right.
reflects that.
So what I might offer for consideration is there anything pressing coming up right away that we would need to do this kind of transaction for?
I don't think so. Nothing as big as the website. So
Mhm.
like in a year or two, there might be like the domain might have to
Right,
renew.
Right,
But that you're talking 20 something dollars.
exactly.
I don't anticipate anything large coming up.
So Tracy, can we run this situation we have
Mhm.
by either the county in preparation for it bringing up the new entity? And or the city as an interim step and ask if they'd be willing to play the role with Ada that CETA was playing in the meantime, meaning that they would front the payment and then bill us for the reimbursement to the city or the county.
Yeah, we can certainly.
That makes the most sense to me because we're eventually going to have a one-stop
Mhm.
that would probably, I would recommend to our board that we
Yeah.
get back in that kind of relationship with the one-stop, so it becomes a transaction for the services that they're delivering to the IDA, and we're just paying the bill.
Yeah.
I just think that makes it clean for all of us board members
Yeah,
and the.
yeah, and it is, I can see how being a board, not volunteer board member,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah,
and like for Bob even more so.
exactly.
Like,
I think we need to get a government entity to do this work.
Well, something that's
Mhm.
gonna be more consistent, but like. The reimbursement thing, like that's $1,500, like that's a lot.
Yeah, that's a
So to for like always asks a person to front those one or two expenses a
Mhm.
year is a lot, so that would, yeah, like if this did. So for instance, with this GoDaddy though, cause the only thing I'm thinking is, so if you have the city do that. Is that too far away for somebody, cause GoDaddy can be very difficult
Mhm.
to get that information and transfer it over, so if we had like Dan leave. And then the city's paying it, but now they've lost the. Well, I guess we would just keep that.
But I think the management of the website could stay with
Oh, yeah.
us, right?
Yeah,
Or
So they would
whomever.
still have.
They would just be the
$50.
one managing the being engaged in the
Okay.
payment process. We would still have access to all of the information, be able to log in, be able to do that. We're just looking at them, if I'm gonna make a not-for-profit analogy, be like the fiscal sponsor.
Pass the-
Well, if it's not, you don't anticipate anything.
No.
Soon.
No.
So I
No,
would
no.
think.
That's why I
that
think we have
would
time to
wait.
broker this
Oh,
deal.
I would, yeah, I
Yeah.
would think to wait until the one stop.
Mhm. That's what makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But I
And
do think we do
established.
need to get you reimbursed, so that just needs to come out as a motion from the committee. at the next-
I'll just like submit something in
Okay.
the packet as a
Okay.
bill.
It's a
and-
bill.
Yeah.
For
You're right.
the board meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
I do think, though, that we just need to note that the finance committee had this conversation.
Mhm.
We recognize the value of having either a debit or a credit card, but I'm. let me
We're still
ask-
exploring what that looks like.
That's what I mean, yes,
Yes, because after I kind of talked about it at the meeting, I was
Right.
like, this is weird, like, there's not a person to put on it.
right,
Mhm.
Like, cause Bob is
right,
as engaged as Bob is.
right,
Mhm.
When you're a volunteer board member.
Yeah.
And it was one thing for like me to have my name on CETA credit card
Right.
as the director,
Right.
as a staff person.
right.
Mhm.
It's a little different in this
Yeah.
situation.
And that's
Right.
common practice. I think the thing of it for me is that I just think it feels more appropriate for us to allow the entity that will be delivering
Yes.
service to us do it. And if for some odd reason we wind up having to do our own thing, then it would be appropriate for our CEO or executive director to have a card as well. So, all right, I say let's let this ride.
Let's let this
Let's let this ride.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Mhm.
Oh, I was just gonna say, so that was the debit card piece, and then the banking piece was mostly just us talking about how we were going to break up those savings, right?
Yeah, I jumped the gun on that.
And, oh, no, no, I just wanted to make sure, that that's what you meant by the banking piece of it.
Yeah.
So it'd be. So I made a note at 35,000 for Shamong.
The 35,000 will be going to the Generations checking account.
Why did I? Checking or shuffle? I don't, sorry.
That would be for our cash flow purposes for the, like, the remainder of the year.
Yeah, okay.
And
So that
then
says checking.
75,000 would go to the Shimon CD. And
Oh.
500 would go to the Shimon. Okay. Checking, which will be the designated pilot checking. And then, like I said here, I'm gonna have to transfer money for the, well, I guess I can do it out of the 35. We're just gonna need to transfer money again, probably sooner rather than later, because I didn't account for the city loan in the 35.
And then these documents that I'm signing now are related to the CD and the checking account.
Yes.
And
Correct.
Bob and I, because of the capacity, we're at, that's the same, okay.
Correct.
So we're staying with generations for the operate.
For now.
Yeah, okay,
That's
yep,
one thing.
no,
at a
that's,
time.
yeah, no, that's why I just wanted to make sure, like. They were making those steps, and
Yes.
that's as far as the bank goes.
Yeah, I think at some point it's probably worth like just taking a look around at, you know, where savings rates are with different banks. And
Who's giving out the can
who's giving
openers?
us the can openers. And, we've been with Generations for a long time and it's fine. Our relationship with them is not quite as strong as it used to be in terms of just like having a person there.
Right,
Because there's been turnover on both sides.
Right.
Mhm.
So it's a little, so at some point, I'm not saying this month or next month.
right.
Or
Yeah,
the
no,
month
I'm not
after,
either.
But at a certain point, it's probably worth just shopping around and seeing what's out there. And maybe you stay there, maybe you move.
I think relationships really matter.
Yeah.
And I also know for my own self, that it's easier to have all of my activity in one bank, or somebody knows my name. So I think we should just keep our options open.
Yeah, no, I think we did the right thing
Yeah.
by looking at, the CD rates,
Yeah.
and so. I think we're definitely getting there.
Yeah, so the banking, I was just thinking that the update on where we are with doing all those transitions. But I did that under the financial reports.
Yeah.
Cause I got a little ahead of myself.
That's okay.
Oh, perfect.
It's good.
Sort of like we took that journey down.
The Facebook.
There you go.
Rabbit hole.
It happens. Thanks for rating us back in.
And then, just this last part of the discussion, I did just want to go through my notes really quick to follow back from our meeting from June 19th and some things, I know there's been a bunch of emails, but just to, I guess,
Close the loop.
get it, yeah.
Yeah.
So we are a paid chamber member. So we, Tracy had found that we paid that in December of 23. So the CETA payments did get sent this past month. We received the JBJ payment. So then that still needs to be forwarded though. Is that what you said is?
I just sent them out last week, so.
So as far as anything we've received, it's been out within that window. And then for the loan, I know the last time we talked to you, you were going to have a discussion, I think, with the mayor to see about to see if there was just gonna be any leniency, but I think since then, did we decide we're just gonna pay?
So, Gwen did have a conversation with the mayor and about the waiver of the
Waiving,
fees
right, yeah.
on the late
Right.
For the
pilots.
pilot,
And I think that was the conversation we had last month, was to
Right.
say like, if they're gonna be lenient about that, then
We should
we
pay.
should pay the interest on the loan.
okay,
And every indication we've received thus far is that the city's gonna move forward with that waiver.
Mhm.
So they've had a conversation about
Right.
it, so.
And I've
um,
spoken to the mayor about that, even since after I've been back from vacation.
I did make it up, cause I know we kind of went down a rabbit hole last time too, about if we would actually sell those properties, but at the board meeting, we had a conversation. About this is what we have, and again, not. Jumping the gun on anything, but we had the conversation with the board, and I think. From here, we would. Look at having to need to find a realtor if we were doing that, and so.
Yeah,
That'll
so
probably come.
my plan, I'm hoping to have like a plan to present to everybody at the next meeting. I have been communicating with ABO, they are gonna want appraisals. So that is one thing I wanted to mention today, is
Mhm.
that we are gonna need to do appraisals. I'm gonna do some outreach and try to get some quotes on that. And see where that comes back
Mhm.
and have that available for the board meeting, but financially, just be aware that
Right.
that's an investment
Right.
that would have to be made in order to sell those properties.
I know that we were having this discussion prior to
Mhm.
Michael's leaving.
Yeah.
So, and I think he'd identified a couple of appraisers. I don't think it ever went beyond that, so.
Okay.
This, for those of us who were in the role previously, this won't be new, but I do think that we just need to be logical and methodical about getting that done.
Yeah, so, yeah, I'm gonna reach out, try to get some quotes. Stone is an obvious one. We've
Mhm.
used them before. They do both commercial and residential. They're local.
Mhm.
And then I'll reach out to at least two others to try to get quotes. And then we'll, I did reach out to Jenny about using the city's broker.
Mhm.
Cause the city has a contract with a broker, to market properties.
Mhm.
Her response was that I'm sure he'd be willing to enter a contract with you as well.
Mhm.
So we can't necessarily just jump onto their
Right,
contract,
right.
but. You know, they're very happy with the work he's been doing
Mhm.
or that they've been doing for the city's properties, so it might make sense to utilize the same broker, although we can certainly look around. The costs are gonna be the same because it's
Mhm.
residential,
Right.
that's set by state law at this point. So we just need to have a conversation about whether or not we wanna use that broker or go with another one.
Mhm.
But I think they come highly recommended from the city and I don't see a reason to
Right.
use them.
We need to trust our trusted colleague.
And
I'm all about that.
then, I mean, we can do a whole RFP and stuff,
Mhm.
but it just seems like a lot of work for. I'm sure there are other realtors that would love to be able to like be considered, but
Are we mandated to put out an RFP for this?
No.
Okay.
God, that would be so fun.
Mhm.
I'm just thinking like I love Auburn, the small city that it is, and like, there's a lot of realtors.
Yeah,
that
there
are. Um. And then the last time we had met, I think you said that you had a meeting with a potential person, which sounds like you have 3 applications going on, and then obviously we had met with the Builder's Choice,
yeah,
so.
so Builder's Choice was the potential one last time.
Oh,
Now there's
okay.
3 new ones.
Did they actually come to the June meeting or?
They did.
Oh, that's great. That's what I'd like to have happen. So that's
Yes,
great.
so they did come.
Mhm.
The original intention was that we were gonna try to put the resolution on the table, but
Mhm.
then as we just got closer, it
Right.
wasn't getting there with seekers,
Right.
so. We're going a different direction, but they still, even knowing that, they came to just introduce the project to the
Mhm,
board. I thought
mhm.
that would be good to give the board
Right.
a heads up and have that
Right.
opportunity instead of trying to do it in a single meeting.
Yeah.
So they did come to the meeting and just
Great.
kind of explain what they're trying to
I
do.
just think
and-
that's important. It lets us
Mhm.
get to know them, they get to know us. You know, and one of the things as things start to settle down is that I want us to intentionally be in relationship with company leaders that have projects with us. So that the more we get to know them from out,
That's right.
that we can be supportive. I actually did call Ryan after just to check in with him. I got a call back. He really appreciated that I called. Of course, he's busy like I am. His assistant called and said, just meant so much to have that you called. And I think that's what we need to do. Right, so I love that we would get to meet them at the beginning of the application process. We can ask important questions. They can see who we are, so.
So we'll see how the next couple of weeks meetings go and
Mhm.
see where we land.
Has there been any response from the county or the school about the waivers, or hasn't that gone out yet?
I need to follow up with Rob.
Rob,
I
okay,
didn't see anything at the school, but I was off today and last week was nuts.
Yeah, I gotta follow up with Rob and see if those went out. I did send him the signed resolution, so I think he has everything he needs, but I'll double check.
The next mix was when I were going to bill, and we just talked about that, I just talked about the debit card, and then I have notes that says Tracy will. Work with Rob for appraisals, Tracy's checking with the city to see about current broker, Karen might have more properties.
well, you know what, it's interesting, because. I know that there's other properties on the assessor's rolls,
That belong to Ada?
yeah, that are under Ada.
Okay, I'll check.
Yeah, so I would check with the assessor's office. Yeah. and see
Residential properties, Karen,
what-
or just properties?
I don't, I know what's over in
Right.
my neck of the woods.
Right.
In woods it is, because we have a beautiful fox.
Mhm.
That likes to hang out in one of the areas.
Oh,
mean-
now I want to sell it.
That fox's tail would be on Eleanor Roosevelt's coat in a
Oh,
heartbeat. I mean, it's lush, yeah. But I just remember before you could go in to look for assessments by street name, before they made that enhancement, I'd be going through, and there'd be like Ada here, like I think there might be something on York Street.
So that might be Newcore.
Mhm.
So Ada
But
would
whether
show
or
up
not
on the
that's
roll.
right, whether
on
or
the
not
roll.
that's new
Yeah.
core.
Because of how our,
The
Yeah.
pilot,
Yeah.
yeah, so I just, but
Yeah, I'll double
yeah,
check.
yeah, that would be.
Yep.
I meant to, but then full-time babysitting.
And my last note was touching base about that RFP for the audit. So I know at the meeting you had mentioned, we're actually getting a pretty good price for that right now. So,
I did get a 3-year proposal or contract from Danable and Mickey
mhm,
per the board's consensus.
Mhm.
So I'll have that to put on the meeting agenda
okay,
for July. And that's starts at 12,000. I think they only added like $500 a year per year, which is good.
yeah,
So it's a lot. And I think this is gonna be what's like. Audit cost, someone's gotta do something about audit costs.
Well,
It's not the auditor's fault, it's really
Right, I
not.
just think that coming off from where we were.
yeah.
Just
I
for the
think that's the-
I was
continuity,
having that exact same thought.
is
But-
wise, but then whether or not how often, this. We've had them for you guys, Ada has had them for a long time.
Yeah, up until 2020, we had RFP'd every 3 years.
Yeah,
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
even with Danable and Key, like Elaine's probably backing away and really, you just have to have, like, if you change the audit partner, which I assume she is going to be, but. Yeah, I mean, I'm very comfortable with that and even though we have that 3-year contract. They might even be approachable, and I know like how much are you gonna argue over the $500 in the grand scheme of it, but. They still would be approachable to say, we paid the 12,000, we understand, like, we're coming off a bad place. This is like, how did it go this year? Do we really need to increase the fee? You can still negotiate a little bit.
Yeah,
It was what, 9?
it was 9, but
It
then there
was-
was an extra 2,000 or 2,500.
yeah, so it was like 7 something and then.
Because some
ended
of
up
it
at
was
9 something.
consulting
Yeah,
charges beyond.
Well, yeah, cause they
and
they
it
had
was,
to,
it was still probably 60% of their actual,
yeah.
Right,
so
the audit or the consulting,
the auditor.
yeah, okay.
Like the total fee
Right,
that was
right, right.
paid to them,
Right,
I
right.
think was still probably
Right.
60%.
Well, I feel like there's consensus between us is that it definitely for the continuity from where we were.
Yeah.
To where we will be by the end of this fiscal year, I think that makes sense. The other reason that this kind of makes sense to me is because, again, we're all gonna be folding up into this new entity. And it would be important to me that we had someone with us that really understood us, and I think the county does the CCIDA does business with them too. I think while we're sort of building this bicycle and riding it at the same time, that it's worth keeping things in place that are working for us. So for us, it'll get right down to, can we afford to pay it? And do we want to pay it? It just doesn't seem like now, especially this year is the right year to make that adjustment.
Yeah. And honestly, I mentioned this at the board meeting. This is probably the best price you're gonna get back anyway, even if you are beat it, like just. I'm guessing here,
Right.
but like based on what I was seeing when we RFP'd for Geneva a couple of years ago, this is where you were gonna land anyway.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And maybe even higher.
Yeah.
Because there have been some issues the last couple of years,
Right.
so I think that you're still getting a good deal, and if you were to RFP it, this is we get up anyway.
Mhm.
And I think the value of the continuity is there, so.
And I guess the only other thing that matters is if Rob says something requires us to put out an RFP. If it doesn't, I think we have a good business case for wanting to step into this contract. I just don't know, do they have out clauses in them, Tracy?
I'm sure they do.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think if we,
Yeah.
you know, that could come up as a question, but I think that for now, I think stabilization needs to be the buzzword.
Almost.
I will say that they did include in the cost schedule,
Mhm.
like a caveat that if management changes, they have the opportunity to reconsider.
Reconsider whether they not want Ada as a.
Well,
client.
reconsider the pricing,
Got it. Mhm.
because Elaine knows me.
Right,
She worked with me for
Right.
many years.
right.
With CETA, ADA, CCIBA,
Mhm.
and, you know, I know that I'm not here long term.
Right.
But that's something that they're considering, the
Mhm.
pricing as well, is
Well,
they know what to expect.
Collaborate.
and it could require more mentoring and coaching of a new executive.
Right, correct.
Which, to me, whole nother conversation, is a reason for us to make sure that whoever is the next the future formal executive director has experience managing IDA finances. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, so that's where we are.
I
So
call that
have-
pain and suffering money in my contract. That's the philosophy behind that for me.
um,
Well, you know, and I'm thinking too, like, if you get another auditor come in, not only are they gonna audit the books at hand, but they're gonna go back the previous year and
That's a-
see if they saw anything
Right.
that was missed.
Right.
And then they might go back, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
because that's just their nature.
And they're getting their laying legs under, they need to be able to see the.
This
pattern.
way, this is.
Right. So we're feeling comfortable bringing this idea to the floor. Madam Treasurer, that work for you? Only works
Yes,
for me, if it works for
definitely
you.
for me.
Okay.
And I know, I'm sorry, it's 5 minutes late, and we're now 10 minutes past the budgeted time there, but, before we leave, maybe we should get the date in for the next meeting
Mhm.
before we adjourn.
I did also want to chat a little bit. I've I've exceeded my budget, over the first 2 months with um, the time and getting things set up and some surprise pipeline meetings all
Right.
of a sudden. So I did just want to check with you, if I can bill some of that this month. I'm gonna save some of it because I think we'll have months that will be
Yeah.
below coming up. But it's gotten a little high, so.
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying.
So
Tracy.
we budgeted $4,500 a month.
Right,
Over the first 2 months, I have exceeded the $4,500 a month.
because of the condition of our organization.
Just getting set up,
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
things lined
Right.
up, transitioning things. Last month I kind of held on to it to see how this month went.
Mhm.
This month didn't go any better.
Right,
Next month, I think will go better.
right.
But I just, so I'll save some of it, but I did want to know if I could bill an extra, about $1,000 on this month's bill to cover some of that overage from the first 2 months.
And I'm just thinking here, and you are choosing to do it this way versus just billing us for the full amount, for what reason?
Because I feel bad, mostly.
Well.
Yeah.
Can I offer something for your
You
consideration
can
and
offer
test?
something.
I think it's gonna really matter. I'm not opposed to it, Tracy, but you're working for a business and you're not donating your time to us.
Oh,
You are
yes.
delivering a significant expertise to this organization right now that we really need. And if the full amount is something we can manage, I'd rather us get whole with you sooner than later, because it is probability that we might start to see a pattern. Maybe the other conversation is let's, work it out with Tess. We all look at it. If we can make you whole, let's do that. But things are starting to happen.
Yeah.
That I think we should assume potentially are gonna require more time from you, and especially those things that will generate more revenue for Ada. I guess what I'm saying, to be blunt, is we're in a business relationship with you.
Yes.
So let us do business with you in ways that make sense.
Well, and it's budgeted for 4,500 a month,
Yeah,
so. Like you said,
And that's
like,
what I was
as we
saying,
get
like-
throughout the year,
Right.
like you might have a slower month that brings
Right.
you down to $3,500.
yeah, I think it'll work itself
Yeah.
out.
So right now, the total amount
Right.
of overage, as of, like, our billing cycle just ended.
Right,
$2,428.73. Oh, actually, $873 is posted, so that's gonna get billed, but $2,420.
and we have the money,
So
can we afford to do that?
I'm just asking, should I put it on the bill? We can discuss it at the meeting, of
Mhm.
course, the board makes decisions,
Right.
but I wanted to have the discussion with you to,
Mhm.
if it should be billed, or if you'd like me to hold it until we
But-
have a slower month.
I mean, I think. We budgeted $4,500.
Mhm.
So if you bill the actual for each month. And then we'll just say, Tracy's been doing a lot of catch up.
Mhm.
And that, but I mean, really, like, we budgeted $4,500 a month because we're on like this weird contract, but. I'm just kind of looking at it at the year.
Yeah.
So.
The total
so
amount of
the-
money we have
yeah.
available through the course of a year.
So,
Great,
Mhm.
so I'll bill the whole amount.
I think that makes sense.
And we'll, I'm aiming, like, we're gonna get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
No, and
like
I
I
think
said,
so,
some of
too.
the stuff now is gonna be more of the project work, which is really important.
And I don't think that there's any reason
Yeah.
for you to feel bad to be doing the work that this entity needs to get done. In order to be in alignment and in compliance with who we want to be and who we want our reputation to be, so let that go.
and
So I was like having agita about like,
But also,
No,
if there's
no
like
agita.
if there's anything that like I could help with
Mhm.
somehow, like in the.
Mhm.
Somewhere,
Okay.
possibly.
I will let you know, I will keep that in mind, because it might be something as simple as just like, not that this takes a lot of time, but
Well,
it would
Aaron-
probably be more appropriate for you to be doing the reconciliations.
Yes, so that's something I know to, especially now that it's
Yeah.
online.
So that,
Mhm.
I just did these ones, but
Right.
moving forward, even when it comes to audit time, the auditors will appreciate the separation of
separation,
duties.
yes. No, I see, and I guess like as I'm navigating like what my role is too, like I don't wanna step on anyone's
Yeah.
toes, but I mean, yeah, like even like calling out to the bank, and whenever it gets to even that point of. Okay, can we check on interest rates or what CDs are out there, like I can make phone calls, and right, it doesn't save like a huge amount of time, but it's one less thing.
And another thing in that space for me literally is these files, like the initial flow through. I think it's helpful to have you do it, but when we think about the expertise that you're bringing to the table, right? So I appreciate your willingness to do it and keep track of your hours. However, once you get everything into this needs to be organized, I think at that point, we need to have a business discussion about whether or not that's the best use of your time. We could probably find someone that you trust, a trusted colleague, that we feel comfortable touching that paper to take care of that. That's their jam. They'd love to do it and they'll knock it out. So know that, don't come in here talking about that's something you're gonna do.
Right.
I'm having a board chair reaction.
Yeah, I was kind of like, yeah, I definitely like, I did
Mhm.
not do that in this process,
Yeah.
because.
It doesn't make sense. It's not the best use of your expertise.
So, but I do think
Mhm.
even like thinking about content,
Right.
like, does Ada have an intern at some point to help do some of this stuff?
Absolutely.
And like help generate content for the Facebook page and help, like,
And those are the kinds of things actually, as we're sort of visualizing the future of economic development. I think it would be so cool for our economic development entity to be a place of choice for interns that want to do it, right? Because there's plenty of them out there. And so I totally agree that in addition to managing the operations of these entities, we also want to be known as, you want to learn something, go there and help this
Yeah.
organization, and here's the spaces you can learn.
Yeah.
So absolutely, and I think once we decide whether or not we even want to have social media, the marketing
Yeah.
committee, I'm sure Katie's really skilled and probably knows that person right now
so,
who wants to do it, so.
okay, so
Mhm.
that's that. Okay, I'm done now.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
It's been very helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, can we get a meeting for?
Oh,
for
yes,
next
sorry, that
month?
was the
So,
plan.
We're talking about
Oh.
August, right?
Yep, so I would say, I don't know, I like to meet. Like within the first 10 days of the next month as far as the financial reporting goes, because then that gives you a second to reconcile and get
Mhm.
everything settled. So that we can present the most
Mhm.
up-to-date reports.
So I thought we were in a rhythm. are we gonna meet like the first, or did we?
Oh, there's a
reflect-
Wednesday.
Yeah, reflects
Did
this
we-
month because of the
reflects
Fourth
this
of July
month.
something.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's,
So
you
would
know
it be
what,
the
that would have been my
7th?
fault. 'Cause
Yeah, so if you wanted to do the 7th,
do we already have the August
We don't-
7th on there?
no, we don't. I didn't fully set like a reoccurring, but if Wednesday, if the first Wednesday of the month at 5 o'clock works for everybody.
Yeah.
Or 5:15,
So I might get available.
then I can just set up a reoccurring. meeting.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be, my assistant went with that too.
Great.
Okay. All right, so that would be August 7th.
August 7th and September 4th. And if that's like right around the start of school, we can flex that one too, but. For right now,
For me, this is my busy time. Once school starts, then I start to slow down. So
Oh.
like, yeah, so mine's a little different.
so I will send out a reoccurring event through the end of the year
Mhm.
for this meeting, and I will book it with. Rhonda in the mayor's office.
Okay, great.
For this
Tess,
month.
this doesn't bump up against any of your school board committee work. I know you're gonna be onboarding a new superintendent too, so.
Yeah, so Tuesdays are board meetings.
Okay,
That Wednesday is not bad at all.
okay.
Yeah, the only thing that comes up is, I'm just at that stage in my life, like when my kids start signing up for things.
Gosh darn it.
They're the ones. But typically, those things all seem to end all in one night, and when I'm running crazy, it's only one night a week, I'm
Yeah,
crazy, so.
yeah.
Usually works out somehow, some way, so. But-
So I'm having a board chair conference. How are you all feeling about where we are as the finance committee, and Tracy, how are you feeling about it too? I like to do a process check.
We'll start with you. Start with the board.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling like we are at a good thorough balance
Mhm.
of making long strides each month, but at a good pace.
Good.
I like the conversation. I'm sorry, my finance meeting or our finance meeting was a little bit longer than.
Stop
tonight,
apologizing.
Well, I
You
just,
and me.
I need you both to watch the Dove. I'm sorry, video. I'll just send you the link, okay? We're giving that up for Lynn.
well, I do want to, since we're bringing it up, like, I just want you to know, I do appreciate the answering of my questions,
Sure.
talking me through a lot of this stuff. I think I'll get through with them, but it's, to me, I feel like it's just a really great and helpful conversation, so thank you all for.
And I'll say, I love that you take notes. That was very helpful to close the loop on everything. So thank you for doing that. And the goal for next month is to call the meeting to order with authority.
That's right.
You own that meeting. Own it.
Do it.
I don't feel weird, but do it.
Yeah,
It does feel like kind of weird.
you're the boss. So that is important. Now, this is the kind of thing I want to be on the website. Because women are running economic development in our county right now, so. And Karen, I just think it's such a blessing to have your historical perspective in the room.
Yeah.
And what are you thinking? How are we doing?
Well, after the shock from the audit, again, I think it's a nice steady pace
Right.
forward, and all the things are starting to come together.
Mhm.
And having Tracy, with her knowledge base from before,
Mhm.
how they ever let her go is beyond me, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
And, yeah, just being able to have a few projects
Mhm.
on the horizon is
Mhm.
huge.
Yeah, and I think more will, I think as people regain trust in us, that more will come our way, because, when I sit and listen to Jenny and everybody talk, like, we're the place to be, like, for real. We have things that people need, right? So, well, I just want to thank everybody for stepping up when you do that in the middle of such disruption and chaos. And learning so much. What I really love about us is that I always keep this quote in front of me, that just because I feel fear doesn't mean I don't do it. I do it afraid. And I think that's what we've all been doing. And I think that that's really, really important. And to be able, Tracy, to have you sort of mentor and coach us through, along with Rob and the rest of the board, I think we're in a really, really good place. And Tess, I see you developing a philosophy about our approach in that kind of thing, the corrective action plan. I'm so proud of us, and you know, it'd be worth paying Dana Bowen, Key and Albert to be like, look. Right, that's right, let's go have lunch, girls.
You're gonna pay us.
That's
to be
right.
doing the audit.
Exactly, so it's important to me as the board chair that we all feel really confident in the roles that we have. That asking questions is what we're supposed to do, that we literally are building the bicycle and riding it at the same time, and you know, the pedal might fall off, and so what? No one's going to die. And we have Rob that just keeps us inside the guardrail, so I just want to encourage us all to be really bold in our shared commitment and pursuit to making sure that Ada is fiscally viable, the kind of entity that people want to do business with. And my mother and grandmother used to listen to a song called The Cleanup Woman. I'll send you the link. But it's, you know, it's sort of like, if not us, then who, and if not now, then what, right? We're here for a reason and we're doing a great job. And you all know, if you're ever uncomfortable, my way of leading is a hindrance or whatever, let's just keep the lines of communication open and keep on keeping on.
I
And
think you're doing awesome.
Thank you, I'm excited about it. And Tracy's just gonna like script us, so we don't have to be hesitant about what we say, so.
You know, I just want to share,
Mhm.
Chris Guerin was at the last meeting for
Mhm.
Builder's Choice.
Right.
You know, he's just got such a nice way
Right.
about him. He's got such a good business sense. And I can't help but think that we have a good relationship with him.
Right.
It's gonna travel.
Right,
You know, whether or not it's other people that are coming in
Right.
or that are in a like-minded business.
that's what we want. All
What
we
what
need
did he say?
is one person.
How many tractor trailers fit on one rail car?
They were so excited about the train track.
About the what?
The train track. No, I still was even talking about it today, so.
Are we formally adjourned?
Oh, we're not, would you
Okay.
like to adjourn?
Yeah, let's do that.
Adjourn the meeting.
All those in favor?
Gwen,
I move.
Karen,
Second.
second.
Wait, any, I forget.
Discussion.
All in
Any
favor?
discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Nope.
So
Good.
moved.